Look at the cat in your house for a second. The one sleeping on the chair like it pays rent. The one staring at you with the expression of a small emperor who has recently become disappointed in your standards. It looks domesticated, soft, familiar, ordinary. But biologically speaking, your house cat is one of the strangest animals human beings have ever invited into their lives. Because unlike the dog, the horse, the cow, or the sheep, the cat was never really reshaped into obedience. It came close to us, stayed because it found the arrangement profitable. And then, over thousands of years, somehow convinced us that this was our idea. Picture the real beginning of this story. Not Egypt yet. Not palaces, not gods, not elegant paintings of striped cats under chairs. Go back earlier, to the first farming settlements around. 10,000 years ago, humans had done something genuinely revolutionary. They had stopped moving. They had planted grain, harvested it, and then made the even more consequential decision to keep it in one place. And the moment humans began storing food in quantity, they accidentally created one of the most attractive ecological niches in the ancient world: grain stores, which is a polite archaeological phrase meaning an absolute miracle for mice. For hundreds of thousands of years before that, humans and wildcats shared landscapes without becoming anything special to one another. Hunter-gatherers moved too often. They did not pile up grain. They did not create permanent rodent hotels and then sit beside them every night. A mobile band of humans has almost nothing unique to offer a solitary small predator. But a village with food stores is different. A village says, here is shelter, here is waste. Here are rodents in ridiculous numbers, and here is the possibility that if you can tolerate some noisy primates nearby, you may never need to hunt the hard way again. So the ancestor of your cat, the Near Eastern wildcat, approached. Not out of love. Not out of loyalty. Out of professional interest, these animals were already perfectly built for this job. Stillness, speed, binocular vision, claws that deploy like tiny switchblades, and a prey drive tuned with absurd precision for killing small rodents. A granary full of mice was not a mystery to a wildcat. It was a jackpot, and the humans noticed something important very quickly. The mice were disappearing, quietly, efficiently, without wages, without training, without anyone having to explain the assignment. The cats did not need to be taught what to do. They were already doing it. This is the moment where the relationship begins. And what is remarkable is how little force was involved. Humans did not march into the wilderness with a grand domestication plan. They simply stopped driving away the useful killers lurking near the grain. That is why cat domestication is so different from almost every other domestication story. Dogs were shaped by active human selection over immense stretches of time. Humans decided which dogs hunted better, guarded better, herded better, behaved better. Cats are different. Cats appear to have come in through what researchers call the commensal pathway. They exploited a human-made niche. And natural selection favored the individuals most capable of tolerating human proximity. The fearful cats fled. The bolder cats stayed. The bolder cats ate better. And the offspring of the cats who stayed were born into a world where human noise, smoke, movement, and food smells were no longer quite so alarming. And this is where the story gets even better. Because the first human settlements were not just storage facilities. At night, they became social theaters. Firelight changed human life by extending the day. Once darkness fell, practical talk dropped away, and stories. Bonding, entertainment, singing, and shared imagination took over. Ancient nights were not silent. They were warm, bright at the center, noisy, repetitive, communal. If you are a cautious nocturnal predator, that is a very interesting environment. The humans are gathered together. The grain is nearby, the rodents are active, and the open dark beyond the settlement is more dangerous than the glowing edge of it. And yes, ancient humans were probably drinking too. Evidence suggests fermented beverages were being produced around 13,000 years ago, even before full agricultural life had finished taking shape. So somewhere in the deep background of cat domestication is an image that feels almost too, perfect to be true, humans around firelight, telling stories, singing, drinking early grain brew, while just beyond the circle of light, a small striped predator waits for the mice to make a mistake. For a long time, this was not yet pet ownership. It was a mutual arrangement. Humans got pest control. Cats got mice, scraps, and a safer hunting zone than the open wild. Nobody was brushing them. Nobody was buying tiny bells for their collars. The relationship was practical first. That matters, because it explains why cats still feel slightly outside human authority even now. Their entry into our homes was never built on submission. It was built on usefulness and tolerance. Then, about 9,500 years ago, we get one of the clearest signs that the relationship had become something deeper. On Cyprus, archaeologists found a human buried alongside a cat. That alone would be extraordinary. But Cyprus had no native wildcats, which means humans brought that cat there deliberately, across water into a new settlement world. A wild rodent killer does not accidentally immigrate to an island. Someone wanted that animal there. Someone valued it enough to transport it. And when the human died, the cat was laid beside them. At that point, we are no longer talking about tolerated pest control. We are talking about attachment. Later, Egypt transformed the scale of the relationship. Egyptian cats became a second enormously influential wave in the history of the domestic cat. Egypt did not just live with cats. It elevated them, bred them, moved them through trade, and turned them into one of the most culturally visible animals in the ancient world. Cats traveled on ships, because ships have grain. Ships have rodents, and ships are essentially floating job opportunities for carnivores with excellent reflexes. From there, they spread through trade networks into Europe, Southwest Asia, Africa, and beyond. Egyptian genetic signatures have even been found at Viking-associated sites near the Baltic, which means the global rise of the house cat involved farmers, merchants, sailors, and eventually, Norse seafarers, one of the more unexpected coalitions in animal history. And yet, for all that time living beside us, cats barely changed compared with other domestic animals. This is one of the great secrets hiding in plain sight inside your living room. Your cat is domesticated, yes, but only lightly. Domestic cats still look astonishingly like their wild ancestors. Their skeletons are so similar that archaeologists have struggled for years. To distinguish them without genetic help, their behavior is still recognizably wild: stalking, territorial marking, ambush hunting, crepuscular energy bursts that arrive at 3 a.m. with the conviction of divine purpose. Even many coat traits people now think of as normal cat are recent. Ancient cats were mostly striped. The familiar blotched tabby pattern did not become common until the Middle Ages. That is why cats feel so different from dogs. A dog often reads as an animal that has crossed all the way into the human social world. A cat feels like an animal standing with one paw still in the wild. And biologically, that is not an illusion. Cats remain obligate carnivores. They remain solitary hunters by ancestral design. Many can survive without us perfectly well if they must. The domestic cat did not become a human-dependent invention. It remained, in many ways, a wild animal that learned a highly successful urban strategy. Briefly, the cat became not just a tolerated coworker, but a psychological masterclass. Cats learned how to communicate with us. Adult wild cats do not spend their lives meowing at one another the way house cats meow at people. Domestic cats appear to have become highly skilled at using sound to manage human responses. They are animals that have learned exactly what emotional levers to pull to get food, shelter, and affection. Which is, if we are being honest, a very cat achievement. The mouse problem got them through the door. The meow kept them inside. So when you hear your cat yelling at you from the kitchen as though you are a negligent employee in a very disorganized palace, you are listening to the end result of thousands of years of selective advantage. The cats that were best at living near humans, tolerating humans, reading humans, and eventually manipulating humans are the ones whose descendants now occupy sofas across the planet. This was not a conquest by speed or strength. It was a conquest by strategic tolerability. And that really is the secret history of your house cat. It is not the story of a savage beast broken by human dominance. It is the story of a small predator that noticed civilization had accidentally built it a paradise. Grain brought mice. Mice brought cats. Humans, being practical, allowed the cats to stay. Trade carried them farther. Culture glorified them. Genetics barely softened them. And somewhere along the way, the arrangement became emotional enough that millions of people now share their homes with an animal that still, in body and instinct, remembers exactly what it was before the cushion, before the food bowl, before the little toy mouse with the bell inside it. So the next time your cat ignores you, or stares through you, or knocks something off a table with the slow, deliberate confidence of a creature who knows consequences are for other species. Remember what you were actually looking at. Not a failed dog, not a fully obedient pet, but one of the most successful opportunists in the history of human civilization. A wild hunter that came to the edge of the firelight, found the mice, tolerated the party, and never really left. If you share your palace with one of these tiny, ancient emperors, tell us their funniest habits in the comments below. And if you want to explore more hidden histories behind the everyday world, hit subscribe and join us next time on Pencil Stick.